Hello everyone, and welcome to this technologycatalog.com webinar. My name is Vincent van Beuzenkom. I'm the CTO and co-founder of technologycatalog.com. Today we'll be joined by Føllesdal Tjønn from Visavi, who will be presenting their solution to optimize maintenance and operations activities through their visualization software. Let us just make sure that Ara can also share his presentation. But while we wait for that, I would like to let you know that if you have any questions during Ara's presentation, please use the chat functionality to type your questions. I will then pick them up at the end of his presentation, and we'll go through that in the Q&A section. So I would say, Ara, welcome this morning, and maybe you can just continue to share your screen, and then the floor is yours.
So thank you for this opportunity to present that Technology Catalog webinar. Really appreciate it, and appreciate that so many are attending. The topic for today is how we can optimize maintenance and operations of industrial assets, I would say, through real-time interactive visualization. Let's start with a few reflections on what is the problem we address here. And planning and execution of maintenance and operations in heavy asset industries are really complex. There's a lot of different units and operating units that are involved, both within maintenance and many different maintenance plans, whether it's fabric maintenance or process facility or the mechanical rotating equipment, what have you. And there are also adjacent or connected plans for logistics, whether it's people logistics or material logistics. And at the same time, there are longer term plans for the facility itself, whether it's modifications or the big turnarounds that are planned, that they do regularly. And of course, the most important is probably the production plans, and what kind of products and how do they commit to their market obligations, when do they plan to do shutdowns, etc., etc. These different planning domains are typically done in silos, and all the different domains use different systems. The maintenance planning is typically done in a CMMS system or an ERP system, while the logistic plans are done in dedicated logistic systems, and then the project plans are typically using project management solutions. And it's very complex landscape of systems, and they are lacking interoperability capabilities. Systems are quite often quite specialized, so it takes time to learn them, to master them in a good way. And the most important problem is that plans are very quickly outdated. Things happen. So when we have done planning and start executing, the plans needs to change. And that is typically a very cumbersome process for most of these companies. So a little bit on the numbers. This is from a survey done in Norway this spring for the onshore and downstream oil and gas facilities. And there are a lot of hours that are spent on maintaining and operating these kind of facilities. Only dedicated to maintenance, whether it's preventive maintenance or corrective maintenance, it's millions of hours. And then you have modifications and projects and revision stops in addition. So 4 or 5 million hours. And what we see when we are digging a little bit under these numbers, we see that there's a lot of maintenance that is not done, whether it's the preventive maintenance or the corrective maintenance. And I guess you're all familiar with this. Corrective maintenance is that you have to do something because things are breaking down, and preventive maintenance is to prevent something from being broken. And there's thousands of hours that are not spent, that are planned spent but are not spent. And amongst these hours, we see that a lot of hours is related to safety critical maintenance. And based on accident investigations, we know that rudimentary maintenance is a key contributor to major accidents, and proper maintenance is, of course, instrumental to avoiding major incident hazards. We see that also if we can improve the efficiency of the maintenance crew, we can have a lot of savings, and we can avoid some of these critical accidents and near accidents and mishaps, what have you. It's of course also a monetary perspective on that. That is a lot of waste that can be removed from the maintenance and operations by doing it in a different way. So what we do in Visavi is that we try to mitigate the problem of not having the total overview over the entire facility and everything that is planned to happen on the facility on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, or annually. So we integrate with all these underlying systems that are involved in the planning and executions of maintenance and operations. And we consolidate it and we present it in a holistic way that is very intuitive. And that's good because then you get a total picture of what's going to happen. But it's not enough because, as we said earlier, things are happening. You need to adjust the plan during execution. So how do you react to the changes that are needed dynamically in an efficient and effective way? So that's a key problem. And of course, today, many of the corrective actions involves going into these expert systems. And that takes a lot of time, and people are not experts in using them. So typically, you have to go back to the experts and ask them to update the plans. So that is one of the key elements in how the organizations are struggling with building up backlog and not achieving the plan attainment that they need to have. So what we do in Visavi is that we integrate all this and present you a little bit of what we do. The main screen you see here in the center. Here we have a consolidated view of all the activities that is going to happen on the facility. So you see on the top there is a timeline where we integrate data from this underlying system, whether it's from the maintenance systems or work orders that are planned to take place, or it's from the project systems. So we consolidate all these sources into one view, so we have a total overview over everything that is planned to happen on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. And you also see a lot of other type of information here. You see an area map of the facility, of all the locations. And you can use this to really X-ray your plan. You can click on one of the areas and you will highlight the activities that is going to happen on that particular area. So you can immediately identify any conflicts of work planned. For example, if you are planning to do hot work, welding, for example, in the same area as someone else has planned to vent a safety valve, that's not a good thing. Then you have a conflict. So you need to resolve it. And then when you're resolving it, you can just do that directly in Visavi. You can just click the work order and drag it to a new location. But then you go into another issue. How do you know that when you are scheduling this new activity that you have all the necessary prerequisites, or do you have the resources? So when we're doing that, we also combine it with resource curves and the capacity curves. So you can immediately see whether your plan is planning with more resources than you have available, or that it's within the resource limits. And then you can, of course, also have other constraints, for example, regarding production, maybe even with weather. So in our solution, we also include integrations with weather forecasting. So if you have, for example, outdoor fabric maintenance that requires not raining, for example, you can schedule them based on the forecast so that you know that on this day you don't have the weather constraints in performing that type of activities. So in our solution, it's a lot of filtering mechanisms. You can filter on the different locations. You can filter on the different crafts. You can also filter on the different work centers. So you immediately can get both a total overview over everything that is going to happen, and you can get a very focused overview over your area of responsibility and things like that. So it's a very, very intuitive solution. And it's an interactive solution that takes away the need to go into these specialized systems just to do a small update on the schedule, for example, or for example, in a meeting, you can start and stop activities. So when you're done with a work order, you can immediately set it to complete, or if you, as a craftsman, if you have available time, you can go in and say, okay, I can do this work as well. So then you can start a work order. So it's very easy to keep an overview over the status of the execution of the work. And this we use to, really enable a new way of working for key processes in maintaining and operating these facilities. I won't go through every one of these, but let's, for example, take the plan review meeting. Today, plan review meetings are typically done by printing out long lists of work orders, and then you have a team sitting around in a conference room going through them and making stickers or notes on each and every one of them, and then the schedulers are going back and updating the CMMS system, for example, punching new dates or scheduling differently or things like that. So we have met head of planning departments that are saying our schedulers are spending 80% of their time punching dates in SAP or any of these other systems. In Visavi, you can conduct this meeting in a totally different way. You can work in a very collaborative environment and agree on where should it be optimized. So in those review meetings can be much more efficient. And also, of course, also the schedulers will have a totally different working day, because now they see the totality of everything that is planned to take place on the facility. But it's of course also used out in the sharp end. For example, in a daily situation, when a conflict arises, something breaks down or an unplanned job needs to be done, you can just gather around the screen. It's interactive, and you can immediately resolve those issues that are coming up. And of course, also, as I mentioned, on the shop floor, the craftsman can directly go in and update the status of the work. And Visavi is a purely cloud-based solution. So there is no local installation, no application management for the customers that are using Visavi. There is a single sign-on, so you manage everything based on your enterprise identity management system. So you log in with your normal login credentials, and the customer manages all the roles and responsibilities that are needed in order to use Visavi. So you can, for example, have roles that are allowed to approve a rescheduling suggestion, for example. It's a web application, cloud and web, so it's available and accessible from anywhere through an ordinary web browser. It's very easy to learn. It's very intuitive, and most of our customers says that the only training we need is less than 30 minutes. It's so intuitive and easy to use. And it's open. So we also say that we see that with this data hub that you are creating using Visavi, there are a number of other things that you could add into that for plug-in functionality. So that's really neat. It's a completely non-intrusive solution to implement it. The only thing we need to do is to access the source systems with our integration systems, and then populate Visavi with the data, and then you have the system available for you. So some of the key achievements that our customers are experiencing using Visavi is the workday efficiency. So we see customers that have struggled with a normal shift, a normal 12-hour shift, for example, and they have struggled with a utilization that is as low as 55, 56%. And that is, of course, representing a lot of waste. And then they see by the key functionality of Visavi that everyone gets a clear overview over what's going to happen. Do you have all the prerequisites that you need in order to do the job? Do you have all the work permits approved that you need in order to do the planned work? Do you have the tooling available? Do you have the resources available? So you see a tremendous increase in workday efficiency. And on another very important thing is the plan attainment. How much of the planned work did you actually get done? So we have seen customers that have been, as low as in the mid-60s with respect to plan attainment. And that means that 35% of the planned work was not executed. And as we saw on the first slide, that represents a potential hazard, because in that backlog, there is a lot of safety critical maintenance that is not done. By using Visavi, we see that these customers have really improved their plan attainment up to close to 90%. So by that, you are reducing your backlog significantly, and you are in much better control over the work executed and the backlog. So those two are very tangible measures by using Visavi. And then you have more intangible values that are created. For example, how you much quicker can react to unplanned events and changes, when you need to change the plan. You increase significantly the visibility throughout the entire organization on what's going to happen, the situational awareness on the shop floor, but of course also to the management level. What is the status on our maintenance and also turnarounds, if that's the case. So you see that Visavi is really enabling you to change the way you work with maintaining and operating assets, and really enables you to improve your processes in doing that. So here we also have some quotes from some of the key users, that how it's improved the way they do maintenance and operations and turnarounds. But it's also important, the safety element of this, that the situational awareness is really improving your HSSE performance. So that was briefly a highlight of how we can improve maintenance and operations through new technology, and how we can enable everyone in the organization to do a better job, both from the planning side and of course also from the execution side. So that was basically what I planned to present this morning. Please feel free to contact us. This webinar will be distributed right after we close here now. And of course, also in Visavi, you can contact us for more information regarding this.
Thanks, Are, for clear presentation. And I think, of course, especially impactful to see how some of the operators, I think mainly around the North Sea, are already really seeing tangible benefits from using the tool. Also good to see that a couple of questions are already coming in. So also for those of you that joined late, if you have any questions, feel free to type them now using the Q&A chat, and I'll pick them up. For the sake of the people that will view the recording, I will actually read out the questions as well. So let's start. Actually, the first couple of questions from Prashant Chandra are, I guess, very much around practical questions. So he's asking, what are the prerequisites for starting to use this tool? So I guess that would be of everyone's interest.
Yeah, I think, you know, the prerequisites is that it's not very much actually, because we integrate data from a number of different sources. So the basic requisite is that the data is available in some kind of system. And of course, that we work very closely with the people involved, so that we understand what are they really struggling with today. So we engage very closely with the organization. So that's another prerequisite. You need to kind of be committed to spend some time on improving the way you work, and work with us in order to make the implementation work. So we need access to the data. We probably need access to some experts that know what the data look like and how we can create the data in Visavi. So those are the two main prerequisites: that we get access to data, and that we get access to people that feel the pain in the daily work, so that we can relieve those pains and enable the values that we get out of Visavi.
And I think, yeah, he had basically building on that question. Does that mean, for example, to visualize the impact on SimOps, that a client will actually need to have a 3D model of the plant already? Is that one of the prerequisites?
No, it's not. We integrate with 3D models and digital twins, and of course that enhances the value further when you can do that. But we build this area map of the. So you can see this is a simplified digital twin, if you like. But the most important thing here is that we get an overview over the locations where the different work is planned to take place, so that we can identify any SimOps issues. But they don't need to have a digital twin of the facility. We establish that together. So basically what we need there is to have some drawings or other means for establishing these area maps. And these area maps, they can be of many different types. So here you see a typical, you know, drawing based on different areas in the facility. It could be visualized as a metro map, for example, on an onshore field where you have wells at different locations. And by the way, you also mentioned that it's used by oil and gas in the North Sea. Yeah, that's true. But it's also used in upstream onshore fields, and also in refining and petrochemicals. So it's applicable across many industries that face the same problem with being on top of maintenance and operations.
All right, thanks. Hey, so we'll wait for a couple more questions to come in, but well, you know, Ari, but by coincidence, I also have a background in operation and maintenance myself. So your presentation actually also triggered a couple of questions from my end. So if there's no other question, I'll actually use the opportunity to ask. What I think what triggered me is that I think it's great that you have, you know, you showed the integration with existing tools, so it's just essentially not replacing it, it's just bringing it all together. But if we then look at it from a deployment perspective, can you perhaps share something around the effort and the time required, not only from your team but also from the team on the operator side, on if you want to get started with this tool? Is there something you can share based on perhaps the current users?
Yeah, I can do that. And of course, to make it work technically, to get these data connections up and running, it requires some effort, of course. But it's, you know, far from implementing a CMMS system or ERP system. So if you're an operator of a multi-site or several facilities, we spend most time on the first one, and then we reuse a lot of the work we do for the first implementation on the subsequent implementations. But for the first implementation, I would say roughly around 1,000 hours from our side to make it work technically. And then we typically need in the range of, let's say, 25 to 30, 40% of that engaging with the customer organization, so that we get it right for the key users here and the use context. So we need to engage with the turnaround team, for example, to understand how they work, how we can help them, the scheduler, the maintenance leads. So we need to do this together, and it's a change management part of this as well, because of course you can implement Visavi and just continue to work as you used to do, and then you don't get the value, or at least not the full value out of it. So we need to work together to make the implementation a good implementation.
Okay,
We typically arrange workshops and both from the technical side, but also on the change management and use side, so that we ensure that we get optimal value out of it.
Yeah, indeed, and I think that's, I mean, in the end, I think that's indeed a sit where the real value comes in. And I can also foresee, also based on your artist impression, there's a lot there involved in actually, making a large screen the core element of some of the daily stand-up meetings, etc., to make people see where potential conflicts are during the day.
Let's take a turnaround, for example. Today, many operators are running their turnarounds by printing the plans on big A1 sheets and putting them up along the wall. With Visavi, you have that on a digital, typically on a big screen, interactive. You can do, it's constantly updated, so you have real-time insights in the status of the execution. So it's kind of a control tower for executing turnarounds, where you have every information available on this screen. But since it's a cloud web solution, all the things you see on this screen in the execution control room, you will also have available on your laptop or on your pad or anything else. So everyone shares the same view on the status on the execution. And that is, of course, also applicable to these planned review meetings. You don't have to sit in the same room anymore. You can share links, and you can ask your colleagues to look into specific problems, so that it's a really collaborative environment for resolving issues and arrive at a more optimal plan.
And perhaps that's also a nice link to a question that came in from Lionel Crochet. It was asking, is it only a visualization tool, or do you also have an algorithm running in the background that perhaps retrieves hidden patterns, or there's an AI component involved there?
It's a very interesting question, and we are working with different solutions or components on that thing, because with Visavi you will establish a data hub, and all the data is there available. So you can add a plugin that are, for example, analyzing the schedule, and you can work with optimizing the scheduling based on AI algorithms. In fact, we are running a research project now together with a couple of our customers. How can we optimize the schedule based on different set of constraints? So you may have a time constraint or a resource constraint, maybe even weather window, as we touched upon, or production constraints. So you can use this set of constraints to run the optimization algorithms and update the schedule based on algorithms. And of course, you can also use it to plug in, for example, Power BI dashboards to highlight these kind of things. So there's only the imagination that is the limiting factor here, I believe, because now we have contextualized the data. It's available through APIs. So it's a very open and modern technology and architecture behind this. So all kinds of options are available.
All right, thanks. And other question just came in, I think also very relevant. You already share the, I guess, the competition to the old printed out plant. But if we look at the market, are you the only one offering this tool, or are there other players active? And Prashant is asking, if so, how do you stand out compared to the other players in the market?
Yeah, it's a good question, and of course it will be maybe a little bit naive of me to say that we don't have competitors, because obviously that could very well be. We have not come across any direct competitor to Visavi. And we are working very close with Gartner these days, and they also see that what Visavi is doing is quite unique. Then, of course, when people have spent a lot of money, millions, if not billions, on implementing heavy-duty systems like SAP, the CFO of that company would probably like to see most of the issues solved by utilizing SAP. And if you ask SAP, they can probably say that they can make something similar. The challenge with that is that it will be a bespoke solution. It will be for you and for you only, and you will need to take the cost of developing it and, of course, also maintaining it over the years. With Visavi, it's a true multi-tenant solution, so all the customers are investing in the same solution. So, and we, of course, have a very ambitious R&D plan to develop the solution further. So when you look at this green box in the middle here, the multi-tenant SaaS solution, everyone is running on the same thing. Of course, we have everything in order with respect to data separation and privacy and data processing and all these things. But the most important thing is that when we work with our roadmap and innovation, we engage very much with the entire user community and customers. So one customer might have an idea that we think is a good idea to develop, and then it benefits all the rest of the users of Visavi immediately. So that's a question on the competition.
I can see that. And actually, there was already a question also around data security. You just briefly mentioned it, and of course, yeah, with these kind of tools, it happens to be on everybody's mind. Can you perhaps share a little bit more around how Visavi addresses data security issues?
First of all, I think it's this authentication. We don't have any user management or need for any user management within our application. You log in with your normal credentials, your normal username and password, and we authenticate it towards your company's identity management. Many are, of course, using Azure AD or these kind of solutions. But as long as it's following the standards, we can authenticate towards any identity provider solution. So that's the first thing, so that we ensure that the authentication is correct. And then every tenant on Visavi is fully isolated. So there is no possibility of one user from one company getting access to data from another company. So of course that has been important for us when we have been building Visavi, that we really focus on these data security issues. And since we are also not storing any user data, all the problems around GDPR and these kind of things are eliminated. It's the customer that provides all the user information, and we authenticate towards their identity management system.
Okay. Thank you very much. And actually, I think that was also the last question that has come in from the audience. So I think some great questions asked to help clarify also, I guess, the power of your technology. And I think with that, suggest we also end the Q&A session. I would like to thank you once more for your presentation this morning, and also for the audience. The presentation will be shared with you afterwards, and then always feel free to reach out to Visavi directly if you have any further questions. I'm sure Ara is happy to present in detail how it can help your operations. And yeah, from our side, thanks for everybody that joined today. And we also hope to see you again during our next webinar. Will be different topic, early October. We'll talk about plugging and abandonment, so a different part of the business. And wish you a great day. Thank you and bye-bye.